Do you want more? More time, more balance, more love, more sex, more money, more real, and less bullshit? This is the Women Wanting More podcast with Dr. Karen Osborne. Real life, real stories, plus real tips to get you more of what you want.
All right, sister, let's go there. Let's talk about the pull to the feminine. The conversation I kind of thought I would never really have on this podcast, but you know, this podcast is a reflection of the things that I'm realizing are true about myself, sharing that story and what I'm learning, and really with my intention is that there is something for you to hear in this story. And let's start in this place. I have never felt feminine. Let me rephrase that. I had not for most of my life felt feminine. I felt that there were girls that were kind of the girly girl, and I would have, and have defined myself, even though I haven't used this word, but if I have to, kind of more of a tomboy as a kid growing up. I connected it to, like, I have two older brothers. I have, I was involved in sports and really active. Thought I was kind of like the girl next door, like cute. But as far as being really girly, feminine, like if I go, well, I didn't really like wearing pink and frilly, like stereotypical stuff, right? That I didn't define myself as that. And so through a series of events that then happened in my life as an adult, and a lot of things that I saw, I'm realizing I saw in my own mom. And this is not, by the way, to blame my mother or to say oh, she caused this. It's just listen, there's a lot of wounds that we carry as adults that we don't even realize until we start peeling back the layers. Until we start really getting honest. Until we start really doing work. I mean, Jesus, I was voxing to my good friend, messaging to my good friend Jill about this morning. It was it's this funny thing, if you've been doing, we're just going to call it under the frame of personal development work for a long period of time, which I have, probably about 25 years, from the beginning of it, at least, from the beginning of being in my early 20s and starting to read books and, I was going to say listen to podcasts. No podcasts back then, but do tape programs and start to attend seminars, and really my mind started to really open up to this new way of being and seeing life and seeing the world and seeing possibility, mindset. And for me, having been in this and then having been the behind the scenes, if you will, of teaching this, right? Of man, let me teach you what I have learned. Let me save you time. You don't have to go through 2+ decades of this to get to here. Let me give you more of the fast track, right? To figuring out what it is that you really want in your life, and remembering who you are, and just getting some clarity and how do you do all that? What's the practical, piece of all this too? And through lots of events I've been talking about in the podcast for the last 6 months, and particularly something that I'm going through right now, an opportunity that's opened up for me, it's the invitation and the gift to really dive deep into this. Now, let me also frame this up by saying the invitation, the gift, and the opportunity, as you will have these in life too, don't necessarily feel good. In fact, most of my experience in life, including what I'm currently going through, these experiences that really drop us to our knees, these experiences that make us really question stuff, these experiences that, if we choose, allow us an opportunity to just arms wide open, hands wide open, I fucking surrender, I let go, they don't feel good. They suck. They hurt. There's pain, there's sadness, there's fear, there's guilt, there's shame, there's loneliness, there's, for me, all of these emotions that have come up during this experience. And as I'm reflecting on what's been going down the past little bit of time, I'm just man, here I am, really thinking kind of almost putting myself on a pedestal. And without seeing the, I'm going to call it lack of humility in this whole experience, and just kind of going like, man, like I got this shit dialed down. Like I got this figured out. And what I've come to realize is that even though I knew from a cognitive level and from a soul level, like, okay, it's not like you arrive at a certain place with figuring out who you are, remembering who you are, getting clear on what you want. Like, we are dynamic as beings in this, like, human skin sack that we were placed into. And, that the work continues. But I didn't really get that until now. I didn't really understand that this... and if this is you too, sister, like, I get it. And this is not, I'm just sharing up. This is what I've been. I'll be the woman in the situation. I'll be the main character of the story for you to kind of go like, oh shit, me too. So if it feels like I'm directly talking to you, you're like, man, this is my experience too, then, just surrender the fact that you were hearing this for a reason. And I do really feel like a lot of me sharing this is also for reasons that I don't necessarily understand, but I'm choosing to find the courage to share these things because I feel so strongly pulled and called. I mean, really, this is what started me down this rabbit hole like 6.5 or so years ago of just like, all right, there's something I'm supposed to be sharing here, and I've just, been opening to it along the way, and listening and listening to the voice inside and listening to my intuition and what needs to happen now. And so that's no different from this conversation we're going to have in this moment. And I'm off track. Where were we here? Talking about, so if this has been you, where you're like, okay, Karen, I've been listening to your podcast, I listen to lots of podcasts, maybe even a woman that's, been a client, been part of the sisterhood, you've come to live events, you're like, man, I've really been working on this stuff quite a bit. Like, I'm proud of myself. I've really, I've progressed to this point. I've come a long way with stuff, and that's wonderful and beautiful. And then I'm telling you, like there is with me, there will be a point for you at some time, sister, if you continue down this path, where you will have the awareness that as soon as you start to think of, I kind of got this figured out, will either be the moment that you just put blinders on and you just keep going the way you've been going. Like there's not any further expansion that's going to open up from it. You just kind of like going through the motions, doing your thing, or you will decide that, man, you actually... And I say this with again, with the humility of just like, you know what? You know nothing. Because what happens when you accept the fact that you know nothing is the things you need to know, the things that are coming to you, the truths that are being presented, your eyes wide opening, and finally seeing or hearing or understanding or feeling something will open up for you. And it won't happen until you dump that, what I know to be true, to be able to open up for this new thing. It's almost like, think of it this way. I mean, I don't feel like there's a certain amount that we can learn or feel. And then, like somehow it's like a cup that fills up with, like let's say a cup of tea, and it fills up. And then if you put any more, like it spills over, but kind of, right? Like, in order for you to really expand to the next place where you need to be, where you are being guided and pulled to go to, it's kind of like this. I was explaining this to a friend the other day. It's like, there's two ways that, probably three ways. Listen, if you understand like nature better than I'm about to give my very amateur understanding, deep respect for you. And my bad if I'm screwing this up, but this is what I know to be true, okay? And it could be wrong, some of these facts, but we're just going to go with it, right? So sometimes there's forest fires where Mother Nature naturally has this way of like burning things, that things will start. Now, We're going to set aside the devastation of like big forest fires that have happened recently in California. And there's lots when I used to live in Alberta and where I live now in BC and other parts of the world where they're devastating. People lose their homes. Like, this is not to discount this, right? But let's just kind of put that away in a container and say that forest fires, again, from what I know, not the devastating like ones, but they will happen naturally as a way of burning down the old to create an opening for the new, okay? There are also times where there are like I think it's called like a controlled burn. I could be wrong in that terminology, but where it's the same thing, that perhaps that, you know, man has to intervene or man has intervened. And by that I mean mankind, women and men and human beings, and we've kind of messed it up. And so now there's needing to be this for us to come in and kind of do that controlled burn again, for things to burn down in order for new to sprout, right? I mean, listen, we look at this in nature all the time, right? We have new birth in spring and then full bloom into spring and summer. And then what happens, say, with trees, they start to lose their leaves. They fall, right? Like they die, they fall the leaves, and then they grow new. So there is this continual circle of this cycle. I think what can happen for those of us that have gone down this path of personal development and working on yourself and investing in yourself is that you will get to a point at some point where, yeah, you feel like you know it. You still go, like, I'm still on this path, but you kind of have like, you kind of put it in cruise. You're kind of coasting a little bit here. And this, this whole feminine shift that I'm feeling, this whole call to spirituality, which, so interesting, my therapist said to me the other day, and she said, well, this whole pull to spirituality that you're feeling, right? You know what that is, right? And I'm like, I don't know. What do you mean? She's like, well, that's feminine. That's a pull to the feminine. Spirituality that is feminine energy, that softening, that gentleness, that opening, that receiving. And, if you are like me, sister, and a lot of you who've connected with me saying like, oh, I love, like, you're like, like, do the fucking work, kind of spouting the Garrett J. White warrior stuff and like just really tough and hard and all this stuff. Very masculine energy is the way that I've shown up for most of my life. And I've had some experiences where I went even more into that for whatever was happening in my life at the time, that I needed to really get in and like get shit done. I needed to take over. I needed to be the one in charge. I needed to, fix things, right? All very masculine energy. And as women, as our men, we are both feminine, masculine. Women have feminine, masculine energy. Men have feminine, masculine energy. The challenge, the way that I see it, that comes into play is when we springboard really far into the one that, my belief, that is, we'll just say the opposite from our like gender one, right? So in other words, when I delve way into masculine energy, being a woman, that's out of balance. There's out of alignment there. There's no type of balance with my masculine, feminine energy. It's just so much masculine energy. And this pull that I've felt since like spring, even earlier before that, this things that I've been doing, and it's, there's the physical outside. That's a piece of it. That's not a big piece of it. It's like how you really define yourself, and why do I, and maybe why do you feel the way that you do about you? And as I'm looking into some of these issues that have happened in my past and bringing up stuff about motherhood and how I wasn't able to conceive and how I saw my mother, and man, sister, there are layers. And a fixed belief, a limiting belief that I had about femininity, which said, well, that's weak. That's powerless. That's soft. I don't want to be soft. I want to be like hard, like boom, like I'm going to get shit done. I'm going to go do things. I'm going to plan things. And I have failed to see until recently the power that is there in feminine energy is different from masculine energy. It is not subservient, but it is different. It is different. And I believe there's a lot of women out there, and this might be you, sister, listening to this episode right now, that feel me in this, that perhaps are nodding your heads or feeling something, you're feeling some emotion that comes up with this, because I believe, again, my belief, that as women, we are to be in this divine feminine space. And when we are not in that place, there is a either consciously or subconscious feeling like things aren't really right, like it doesn't quite fit. There is something that doesn't really, and that's going to bleed into relationships and how we parent and how we show up in work and how we feel about ourselves as women. And I believe that it is our journey as women, if we have really lost that essence, that like beautiful power that we have as feminine beings, that it's part of our journey, if we choose it, to find our way back to that. And that's really where I am right now. And this understanding that, power doesn't mean loud, and power doesn't mean hard, and power doesn't mean forceful, and power doesn't mean extrovert, and power doesn't mean controlling. Power can be gentle and soft and loving and receiving and allowing. Like such power in that, who comes to mind right away, who, side note, I think from what I saw, little pieces about his life, was very in touch with his feminine energy, right away comes to mind as someone like Gandhi. Like when you look at true, like powerful leaders, it more often has not come from a hard energy. It has come from a gentle, a softening, a soulful, an allowing, a receiving, an understanding, an empathy, a compassion. And I'm not saying that masculine energy can't be those things as well too. But it is this odd feeling of, I tell myself, well, that's kind of nothing like me, and I have to really work to allow that to happen. But yet, a paradox almost of like, it feels exactly like me. It feels exactly like me. So your more tip for today is to share this up with another woman that you think needs to hear this episode. Because I know there's more women out there, and again, this could be you, sister, that have shown up in your life in that very masculine energy. And the thing is, we have other beings in our life who are being impacted by this. And this is not to make you blame. This is not to, listen, I did that. I've done that. And, Maya Angelou had a lot of great things that she said. And one is that when we know better, we do better. When we know better, we do better. And so I think it's okay. I think we need to honor the space that we've come from, because it's got us to this place. It had a purpose that perhaps we can't even see at this point, right? So I think it is really important to love and to honor that, and to not beat yourself up. But if there's something inside your heart, inside your soul, that is really like stirring with this conversation and with these words and with this message, then it is up to you, sister, to begin to figure out, how do I move back to that space of that feminine power, that feminine energy, that essence of that divine being that we have, the sacredness. This is what I'm trying to say. The sacred. And what do I need to do? Actually, I'm not going to even do the what do we need to do. Just to have an awareness of this. And I'm probably going to be talking more into this in the upcoming episodes. So just sit tight, but just let this one sit. Like, just allow this to enter in. And again, I'm going to ask this part of the more tip for you to share this up with another woman that you feel needs to hear this message today. Okay, sister. So to get on the 101 to More newsletter, be part of this beautiful, expanding, shifting tribe, I want you to head over right now to drkarenosborne.com/action guide. So that's drkarenosburn.com/action guide. Enter in your name and email, and you'll get you hooked up and connected to that today. And also, if you would like to receive one of the last Women Wanting More limited edition orange beautiful leather-bound journals and some other beautiful things that I'm going to send with you in the package, I want you to over right now to drkarenosburn.com/free journal. Yes, the journal is free. I'm going to have you take care of a little bit of shipping, and the rest is on me, sister. So that's at drkarenosburn.com/free journal. And there's about 30 or so that are left at this point. And I would love for you to get one, sister. So I will talk to you in the next episode. A life of more is one step away from you expanding into your feminine energy, the essence of who you are every single day. I love and appreciate you.
To get the show notes of each Women Wanting More episode, including the How to Get More tip, subscribe to the newsletter at drkarenosburn.com/newsletter.